Let me be clear with you. Real change doesn't start with a new plan. It doesn't begin with a fresh vision board, a new journal, or a motivational quote slapped on your wall. Change, real, permanent, undeniable transformation begins the moment you make a firm decision about who you refuse to be anymore. There comes a point in your life when enough is enough. You reach a threshold. You're done playing small. You're done being tired all the time, angry all the time, lost in distractions, numb in the routine, making excuses you stopped believing in a long time ago. The moment you change your life isn't when things get easier, it's when you finally get honest. Who are you tired of being? That version of you that's always procrastinating, always waiting, always watching other people live out the courage you never claimed. That version of you that keeps betraying their own potential in exchange for short-term comfort. You know the one. That version of you that keeps making the same promises every Monday, breaking them by Tuesday and calling it starting over instead of what it is. Avoiding your greatness. If you want to become unrecognizable, in the best possible way, you've got to confront that version of you first. You have to stand in front of that mirror, look into your own eyes, and call it what it is. This is not who I was built to be. This is not who I'm going to die as. The truth is, we all carry around a version of ourselves that we've outgrown. But most people never stop dragging it forward. They carry old habits, old fears, old limits into new seasons. They say they want to evolve, but they're still protecting patterns that are keeping them stuck. You can't become the person you were meant to be while still defending the person you used to be. There is a power in drawing a line in the sand and saying, that chapter ends here. It doesn't mean you hate who you've been. It means you're done settling for less than who you truly are. It means you're done being okay with what no longer serves you. That version of you who keeps waiting for the right moment? Gone. The one who keeps needing approval before taking action? Gone. The one who talks big but shows up small? Gone. You don't need more time. You need a new level of decisiveness. The kind that shakes your spirit and makes everything you do from that moment forward different, because when you really decide who you refuse to be anymore, your standards shift instantly. Your excuses start to die. Your environment starts to lose its hold on you. You walk differently, you speak differently, and people around you feel it, even if they don't understand it. This is what most people miss. They think transformation is about addition. Add more tools, add more hacks, add more content, but before you add, you must subtract. Cut away who you're not. Burn the bridge back to your old life. You can't become unrecognizable by staying familiar. This is the part that hurts a little. It should. Letting go of old identities feels like death. But it's the death of the false self, the one that kept you playing small, avoiding pain and settling for average, the one that lied to you and said, "You're not ready," or "You're not enough." You bury that voice today. You bury that version of yourself today. Don't wait for a breakdown to get to this moment. You don't need your life to fall apart to have permission to rise. You just need a decision, right now. A decision that says, I will no longer live as the watered-down version of myself. I am done apologizing for my ambition. I am done living in hesitation. I am done watching life pass while I sit in my own shadow. Today is not about becoming someone new. It's about letting go of who you never really were. The mask, the fear, the false humility, it all goes. From this moment forward, you are done being the person who keeps breaking promises to yourself. You are done being the person who keeps waiting for the right time. You are done letting potential rot in silence. This is the moment you become dangerous. This is the moment you decide, I will never be that person again. Everyone keeps waiting for that one moment, that lightning bolt of motivation that finally gets them moving. That perfect morning where the alarm goes off and somehow, without resistance, they leap out of bed, full of clarity and drive. But let me tell you the truth you already know deep down. That moment doesn't come. Not on its own. Not when you keep waiting for it. If you want to change your life radically, completely, you don't wait for motivation. You move without it. That's what most people don't understand. Motivation is not the spark, it's the result. You don't wait until you feel ready, you act before you're ready. And readiness comes from action. You move first. That's where the shift happens. Not in thought, not in theory, not in your head. In your feet, in your hands, in the first step you take even while you're doubting, tired, uninspired, even afraid. Because here's the thing, you've already tried the waiting game. How many times have you told yourself, I'll start when I feel it? How many hours, days, years have passed while you waited for this mythical wave of energy and clarity to suddenly hit you? You weren't lazy, you were stuck in a lie that action should follow emotion. But greatness flips that formula. You act first, and then the emotion catches up. There are going to be days where you feel heavy, days when the purpose doesn't seem clear, when the goal feels far away, and everything inside of you tells you to sit it out. Those are the days that define you. Not the easy ones. Anyone can move when it's exciting, when the fire is fresh, when everyone is watching. But if you can move without that, when no one's watching, when everything in you says, not today, that's when you start becoming unrecognizable. You don't change your life in grand gestures once a year. You change it in quiet moments of discipline, stacked up when no one's looking. When you choose to lace up the shoes, make the call, sit down to the work, before your brain gives you permission, that's when everything shifts. And let's get one thing straight. You're not broken for not feeling motivated. You're human. The problem is thinking you need motivation to act. You don't. You need a reason. You need a standard. You need a decision that's bigger than your mood. That's what separates the ones who stay stuck from the ones who rise. The ones who rise move regardless of how they feel. When you move, even a little, you interrupt the pattern. You send a message to your brain. We're not waiting anymore. That 5 minutes of action, that uncomfortable, uncertain first step, is often enough to change your entire. But you'll never get that gift if you keep waiting to feel good before you begin. The emotion you want is on the other side of the motion you're avoiding. And no, it won't be perfect. You'll trip, you'll question it, you'll wonder if it matters. But every step forward, even the shaky ones, is one step further from the version of yourself you left behind. That's the whole game. Movement over mood. Action over excuses. Discipline over delay. You say you want to change in one day, then you start moving before you feel ready. Not tomorrow, not next week, now. Get uncomfortable. Do the opposite of what your comfort zone tells you. If your instinct says sit, stand. If it says delay, decide. That's how you build the kind of momentum that turns a normal day into a turning point. You think people who build extraordinary lives wake up inspired every morning? No, They build systems that don't care how they feel. They build habits that are stronger than hesitation, and they understand this simple truth. If you want to feel like the kind of person who wins, you have to act like them first, even before you believe it. So whatever you're putting off, start it. Not when you feel ready, not when you're in the mood, now. Because your body doesn't need permission. Your future doesn't care how you feel today, but it's waiting to see what you'll do about it. Stop waiting for motivation. Move, and let the rest catch up. You can't grow in the same soil that kept you stuck. That's the truth. You can't expect to become a new version of yourself while surrounding yourself with the same inputs, the same noise, the same people, and the same daily routine that fed the old you. If you're serious about becoming unrecognizable, in the best, most powerful, most undeniable way, you've got to get serious about your environment. Because your environment is either feeding your transformation or fighting it. Look around. What are you allowing in your space every day? What are you listening to when you wake up? Who are you spending time with? What kind of conversations are shaping your mindset? What notifications are you reacting to? These things matter more than you think. Because even if your goals are sky high, if your environment pulls you down, you won't rise. It's not a motivation issue. It's an atmosphere issue. You've got to audit your world, and I mean everything. The people, the content, the habits, the visuals, the rhythm of your days. Nothing is neutral. It's either helping you evolve or keeping you exactly where you are. And here's where it gets real. Growth isn't comfortable. So your environment shouldn't be either. It should stretch you, challenge you, force you to step up. That's how you know you're building the right one, when the standard around you rises and you can't help but rise with it. It's easy to stay small when no one expects more of you. It's easy to repeat patterns when the world around you accepts your excuses. But if you really want to become a different person, then surround yourself with people who don't buy into your limitations. Put yourself in rooms where you feel a little underqualified. Listen to voices that demand more, not the ones that make you feel safe where you are. You don't grow by staying comfortable. You grow by stepping into spaces that challenge your identity and your effort. And don't think this is just about people. It's about your systems. If your mornings start with scrolling, your evenings end with distraction, and your time is swallowed by things that don't move you forward, then your environment is stealing your future. Redesign it. Control what you can. If your space doesn't feel like it's built for focus and growth, change it. Get rid of clutter, set boundaries. Make it easier to win and harder to fall back into default mode. Even the background matters. What's playing in your ear while you work? What's on your wall? What's on your feed? Every one of those elements is casting a vote for who you're becoming. Don't just consume, curate. Curate your inputs like your life depends on it, because it does. Here's a hard truth. Sometimes that means letting go of people, not because you don't care, but because your evolution isn't compatible with their comfort zone. If someone is constantly anchoring you to your old self, if they pull you back every time you try to level up, it doesn't mean they're bad. It means you've outgrown that space, and your future can't wait for everyone to catch up. Now, I know that's not easy. Changing your environment isn't always quick or convenient, but it's necessary, because you're not trying to make small changes here. You're trying to become unrecognizable. That requires a world around you that reflects who you're becoming, not who you used to be. A world that reinforces the habits, the discipline, and the energy required to live at your next level. You have to build your environment like it's a training ground, not a place to hide, not a place to coast, but a space that pulls greatness out of you every single day. And the more you immerse yourself in that kind of atmosphere, the less space there is for your old self to survive. So if you're serious about changing your life in one day, don't just change your mindset, change your surrounding. Change what you allow in your head, in your heart, and in your home. Because when your environment starts expecting greatness from you, you'll rise to meet it. Shape your world like your future depends on it, because it does. Goals are exciting. They give you a vision, something to chase. They sound good when you say them out loud. I want to lose the weight. I want to build the business. I want to change my life. But here's the problem. Goals don't change you. Standards do. Goals give you direction, but standards determine whether you show up. And if you want to become unrecognizable, you need more than a dream. You need a line you refuse to drop below, no matter what. See, anybody can set a goal. It doesn't cost anything to imagine the life you want. But how many people do you know who talk about what they want every year, and year after year, nothing changes? Not because they didn't want it bad enough, but because their daily standards stayed the same. They kept doing just enough to survive, not enough to transform. They were waiting for big results, without raising the floor of who they are, day in and day out. That's the shift. That's the change that flips the switch. You stop asking, what do I want? And you start asking, what do I accept from myself now, every single day? You stop flirting with greatness and start committing to it. It's not about how high your goals reach. It's about how high your standards are when no one's watching. When you're tired. When you're frustrated. When you could easily make an excuse. What happens then? Because that's where identity is forged. You can have the most inspiring goal in the world, but if your standard is still to hit snooze, skip the reps, or cut corners when it gets uncomfortable, that goal is just a fantasy, and you know it. Because deep down, we all live not by what we hope for, but by what we tolerate. And what you tolerate becomes your reality. That's why people stay stuck. Not because they lack desire, but because they haven't raised the standard of what's no longer acceptable in their life. Want to change in one day? Start with that. Decide what's no longer acceptable. Decide what's beneath you now, not in an arrogant way, but in a disciplined, self-respecting way. That version of you that kept ghosting their own potential? That's done. That version that made excuses when things got tough? Gone. That standard is too low for who you're becoming. And once you draw that line, once you raise the bar, everything in your life has to answer to it. Goals will get you moving, but standards keep you consistent. They're the rules you live by. And if you don't write your own rules, life will hand you ones that keep you average. That's how most people live. By default. They take what's given. But those who change their lives set new terms. They decide how they show up, how they speak, how they work, how they rest, how they lead, how they think. They hold themselves to a level that makes their past self unrecognizable. So instead of saying, I want to get in shape, the standard becomes, I don't miss workouts. I fuel my body like an athlete. I don't need motivation to move. Instead of saying, I want to be more confident, the standard becomes, I speak with clarity. I enter rooms with presence. I don't shrink to fit. That's how you shift from wishful thinking to embodied action. That's how your goals stop living on a vision board and start showing up in real life. Yad. And yes, it's going to be hard. That's the point. If the standard doesn't stretch you, it won't change you. But the beauty is, once you commit to it, Once you choose it not just on your best day but on your hardest day, it becomes who you are. Not something you do occasionally, something you are consistently. You become the kind of person who lives by principle, not by pressure. Who doesn't negotiate with laziness, who doesn't wait to feel like it, who doesn't ask if it's convenient. You just do the work because your standard demands it. And over time, that consistent alignment with your standard builds a life no goal could ever match. So stop chasing the outcome and start committing to the identity. Start showing up like your standard already lives in you, because once your standard rises, your results don't have a choice. They'll catch up. They always do. Raise your standard and the world will rise to meet you. The biggest fight you'll ever face isn't out there. It's not your circumstances, not your critics, not the competition. It's the voice in your head. The one that knows your fears, your failures, your flaws. That voice knows exactly where to strike, and it doesn't wait for the world to throw a punch. It throws the first one. It whispers, "Who are you to change?" It laughs when you try. It reminds you of every mistake and questions every bold move. And until you win that battle, nothing on the outside will ever fully change. That's the truth most people ignore. They want to fix the external, get in shape, build a brand, make more money, but they forget that none of that sticks if the internal doesn't shift first. You don't become unrecognizable by changing your clothes or your schedule. You become unrecognizable by silencing the war inside. You win by taking control of your mind before it talks you out of your next breakthrough. The problem is, too many people think the inner battle is about being positive all the time. It's not. It's about being honest. It's about confronting the version of you that's still living in doubt and dragging yesterday into today. It's about facing the thoughts that tell you you're not enough, that it's too late, that you'll always fall short, and answering them with truth, not come. You can't outrun that voice, but you can retrain it. You do it by discipline. You do it by action. Every time you follow through when it's hard, every time you show up when it would have been easier to quit, you chip away at the lie. You build new proof. That's how you change your inner dialogue. Not by repeating affirmations you don't believe, but by giving your mind undeniable evidence that you're not who you used to be. You wake up and you make your bed. Not because it's magic, but because it says, "I control the tone of my day." You go to the gym not for the six-pack, but to remind yourself that your body follows your mind. You do the work when no one's clapping because you're not performing anymore. You're transforming. And that transformation is rooted in a mindset that refuses to stay silent in the face of fear. You'll never lead your life boldly if your mind is still being led by fear. You have to flip the script. Every time the inner voice tries to shrink you, you answer it. Not with emotion, with identity. "I don't do that anymore. That's not me. That was the old version. I've raised the standard. I've upgraded the operating system." And even if your voice shakes when you say it anyway, because your belief will catch up with your consistency. What people see when they finally notice your transformation, your results, your presence, your peace. It all started long before they had eyes on you. It started in private, in those quiet, invisible battles, in the late nights when no one was watching, in the early mornings when you didn't want to try again, in the moments when you could have folded, but you didn't. That's where confidence is built. That's where the real win happens. Confidence isn't loud. It's earned. It comes from knowing you faced your inner critic and didn't flinch. It comes from knowing that no matter what happens out there, You've already conquered the one opponent that could have truly stopped you: yourself. So when the world tests you, it doesn't shake you. When setbacks come, they don't own you, because you've already done the heavy lifting on the inside. If you don't win the inner battle, the world will always feel like a war. Every challenge will feel like a threat. Every opinion will feel like a verdict. Every failure will feel like the end. But when you've fought through your own doubts, when you've trained your mind to respond instead of retreat, the world starts to feel different. It doesn't get easier, you just get stronger, unshakable, unapologetic, unrecognizable. So stop waiting for external proof and start training your inner world. Because once you've won in here, the outside has no choice but to follow. The real transformation, the kind that no one can take from you, starts where no one else can see. Win in the dark, and you won't fear the light. You've seen that version of yourself, the future you. The one who walks into rooms with certainty, the one who speaks with conviction, leads with purpose, moves with discipline. The version of you that isn't hesitating, overthinking, or shrinking. That version isn't confused. That version isn't stuck. That version isn't waiting. And if you're serious about becoming unrecognizable, the key is simple. Start acting like that version today. Not once in a while, not when it's convenient. Relentlessly. The gap between where you are and who you could be isn't about time. It's about alignment. Most people wait to feel ready before they act like the future version of themselves. They wait for the confidence, the income, the title, the external validation. But the ones who change their life in a day, they flip that. They act like the person they want to become before the world gives them permission. They move like the success is already inevitable, because in their mind, it is. You can't negotiate with your potential. You can't delay who you were born to be because you're still hanging on to who you used to be. The future you is watching. Every decision you make today is either proof that you're becoming them or proof that you're postponing them. There is no neutral. There's no someday. There's only the version of you who shows up and the version who keeps explaining why they didn't. So what does the future you do? What time do they wake up? What habits do they refuse to skip? How do they handle stress, fear, failure? What do they tolerate? How do they speak about themselves? If you don't know, figure it out. Get that vision clear. Write it down if you have to, because that version isn't a fantasy. It's a mirror. It's you, stripped of excuses, delays, and distractions. And every day you choose to live by their standards instead of your comfort, you close the gap. It's not fake, it's not pretending, it's aligning. When you act like the future you, your brain stops identifying with old limitations. You don't say, "I'm trying to be disciplined." You say, "I am disciplined." You don't say, "I'm working on confidence." You say, "I'm a confident person building even more strength." That shift rewires how you walk into every situation. You're not trying to get ready anymore. You are ready. And you're getting even sharper. But here's where it gets real. You can't do this half-hearted. You can't visit the future you like it's a weekend trip. This isn't a phase. This is who you are now. That's what relentlessly means. Not perfectly. Not without failure, but with commitment so deep it doesn't break under pressure. You slip, you get up, you fall, you realign. You don't let the old you narrate the new chapter. And yeah, people might not understand it. They might say you've changed. Let them. That's the point. Some people are committed to remembering you as who you were. You've got to be more committed to becoming who you were meant to be. That's why this work is lonely sometimes. Not everyone's coming with you. But you're not here for approval. You're here for transformation, and that requires you to lead yourself before anyone else sees it. Every time you make a decision today, filter it through the lens of that future self. What would they do? What would they say yes to? What would they let go of? That's how you start embodying greatness before the world gives you a stage. You don't wait until the crowd shows up. You build the foundation in silence, in repetition, in self-leadership. Do it long enough and here's what happens. One day, you look up and realize you didn't just imagine that version of you. You became them. Not by accident, not by magic, but by consistent, unapologetic, relentless action. You started living by a standard that matched your vision, and the results had no choice but to catch up. That's how lives change. That's how legacies begin. So don't wait to feel like the future you. Decide to be them now, not later, not next year, not once things are perfect, right now. Because if you want to live a life that's unrecognizable from where you started, you've got to start showing up like the version of you that no one's met yet, but you know is real. Act like the future you today, relentlessly, and watch how fast the world catches up.